The hearing room felt colder than usual. Maybe it was the marble, maybe the mood. Senator JD Vance leaned forward, voice steady, but with fire underneath. "We are sitting on $35 trillion national debt, and this proposal," he waved the thick stack of paper in his hand, "adds more fuel to the fire. This isn't conservative. This is betrayal." The room went quiet. Cameras locked in. Reporters stopped typing. Senator Marco Rubio, seated 2 chairs away, didn't flinch. He simply closed his binder. "You're calling veterans' housing programs and cyber defense funding betrayal?" Vance didn't blink. "I'm calling it bloated. Families in Ohio can't afford milk, and you're funding overseas consulting contracts and military bands." The silence wasn't awkward. It was explosive, the kind that rippled far beyond Washington. What no one knew was that, watching from her modest kitchen in Tampa, 68-year-old war widow Marla Jennings clutched her coffee tighter. The words, "veterans housing," hit her like a punch. Her husband died in Iraq. Her son, homeless, jobless, lived out of a van. "I need them to fight for people like me," she whispered. She had no idea how deep that moment would reach, or that it would change everything. Rubio's voice didn't rise, but it cut through the room like glass. "I understand debt, JD. I also understand a mother in Pensacola, with 2 sons in the Navy. I understand that if we don't protect them at sea, if we don't give their families housing, care, respect, we are not conservative. We are cowards." Vance crossed his arms, still seething. "You're defending inefficiency." "No," Rubio replied, flipping a page. "I'm defending people." He listed line items: $900 million for VA trauma clinics, $300 million for fentanyl detection along the southern border, $700 million for housing for families of disabled veterans. Vance countered with a chart showing inflation spikes and food price hikes. "They don't need more government," he snapped. "They need freedom." But again, this wasn't just about budget lines. Not anymore. In a small town in Missouri, Staff Sergeant Dana Cole, medically discharged after 17 years of service, sat in her wheelchair and watched the clip online. She hadn't received her disability check in 2 months. "God," she whispered, choking up. "Is anyone up there really fighting for us?" Her daughter walked in, holding a crayon drawing. "Mommy is strong." Dana smiled through tears. Outside, her roof was leaking. Inside, her heart cracked wide open. That night, the Senate clip exploded online. Millions watched. But buried in the comments, one user's post stood out. From Burkina Faso. "I am President Ibrahim Traoré," it began. "And I watched the exchange. America must remember, leadership is not power, it is protection. Of your own, of your weak, of your forgotten." No one expected it. But within hours, major outlets picked it up. African president comments on U.S. Senate clash. In Ohio, JD Vance was livid. "Foreign interference," he tweeted. But in Florida, Marla Jennings sat with her granddaughter, watching the full clip and reading Traoré's message aloud. The girl, only 9, whispered, "Why is he nicer than our own leaders?" Marla couldn't answer. Her eyes welled up. Meanwhile, Rubio's team quietly shared a letter they'd received weeks ago from the Gold Star Coalition, begging for funding to keep PTSD centers running. He hadn't publicized it. He hadn't made a show. He just folded the letter and slipped it into his jacket that morning. He knew one day it would matter. That day had come, and it was only the beginning. Inside a dim-lit motel just outside Toledo, Raymond McKellen, 63, held a remote with trembling fingers. He was once a Marine. Now he was broke. His daughter, a diabetic, had died last year when she couldn't afford insulin. Raymond had begged for help. Letters, calls, even a visit to a local congressman's office. No one answered. He watched JD Vance slam Rubio's plan again in a follow-up interview. We need less Washington, not more handouts, Vance said, eyes burning with conviction. Raymond stared at the screen. No, he mumbled. We don't need less Washington. We need someone in Washington to remember us. His phone buzzed, a news alert. Rubio had just released details about a new amendment tucked quietly into the proposal. $20 million redirected to fund mobile clinics for rural veterans and military families. Raymond paused. He'd served in Fallujah, got shrapnel in his spine. But that headline, it brought him to his knees. For the first time in years, he felt like someone up there might still see him. Outside, snow began to fall. Cold, quiet. But something was shifting, and soon, everyone would feel it. The Senate floor was buzzing. Commentators were hungry for fireworks. But Rubio said, nothing. No tweets, no cable hits, no op-eds, for 3 full days. Pundits mocked him. Vance surged in conservative media. Rubio's hiding, they said. But in truth, Rubio wasn't hiding. He was listening. At a quiet roundtable in Jacksonville, he met with 7 families, all with military roots, all financially devastated. They weren't political. They were just desperate. One mother, Yasmin Perez, broke down mid-sentence. My husband came home from Afghanistan in a box, she cried. And now my son wakes up every night screaming for him. And you all in Washington argue about charts? Rubio didn't speak. He handed her a tissue. Then another. Then he reached into his jacket and slid the gold star letter onto the table. I've carried this for months, he said quietly. I want it to mean something. One by one, tears fell. Rubio didn't call a press conference. He didn't post a photo. But a staffer leaked the moment. Just a grainy cell phone clip of Rubio quietly holding Yasmin's hand. It went viral. And JD Vance finally realized this fight wasn't just budgetary anymore. It was spiritual. Back at the Senate Budget Committee, a new witness had been added to the docket. Liam Caldwell, 22, former Air Force, now paralyzed from the waist down after a training accident. The VA had delayed his benefits for over 14 months. He rolled himself to the mic. Silence gripped the room. I joined because I believed in the country. I got hurt and I still believed, he said, voice shaking. But then I went home and waited and waited. I had to sell my wheelchair to pay for food once. Gasps echoed. And I heard Senator Vance say we need to stop funding programs like these, he continued, eyes wet. But if we don't fund them, who will help the next me? JD Vance looked down, uncomfortable, fidgeting. Rubio didn't interrupt. He looked straight ahead, focused, steady. Liam reached into his backpack, pulled out a photo of his old squad. 2 of them are gone. Suicide. They couldn't wait like I did. He placed it on the desk. Then he whispered, "Don't let this be for nothing." The room didn't just fall silent. It wept. And across America, so did millions. Rubio returned to his office after Liam's testimony and found it unusually quiet. Aides whispered behind doors. One slid him a note. "Watch tonight's segment, page 4. It's bad." That evening, a leaked memo exploded on primetime cable. It came from inside the Senate, a junior aide in Rubio's circle. The document painted Rubio's amendment as a performative gesture meant to secure swing state optics, and claimed he privately conceded the bill wouldn't pass intact. JD Vance seized it like a hawk. "I've said it from the start," he barked on Fox. "Rubio talks hard, but plays the same DC game behind closed doors." The blow was brutal. Social media lit up. Fake compassion, some called it. Swamp survivor. Others weren't so sure. In Miami, Yasmin Perez saw the news and smashed her coffee mug. She remembered Rubio's eyes, his silence, his tears. He didn't fake that, she whispered to her son. Meanwhile, Rubio stood alone in the Capitol rotunda, staring at a bronze plaque of fallen service members. The aide confessed the leak. Rubio didn't yell. He just said, "You think this is politics? That boy, Liam, he can't walk, and you played a game." It wasn't just betrayal. It was war inside the war. That night, Rubio's phone buzzed. "Private number, West African code," he answered. Nothing but static. Then a voice, warm, calm, unexpected. "Senator Rubio, this is Ibrahim Traoré. I saw what they are doing to you." Rubio froze. Traoré continued, his French-accented English soft but resolute. "I know what it means to fight alone. I know betrayal. But the man who stands still for the broken is never really alone." Rubio sank into his chair. Traoré's message wasn't performative. It was human. "My own soldiers once doubted me, but I reminded them. A nation does not rise through pride. It rises through care. Protect your people, Senator, whether they love you back or not." The voicemail ended. No press, no photo op, just a quiet call across oceans, from one leader to another. Rubio saved it, played it again, and again. In that moment, far from the noise, something clicked. This wasn't just a fiscal debate. It was about dignity, memory, family. Rubio stood up, walked to the window, and watched the American flag flap in the night wind. He'd make a move the next morning, one no one, not even JD Vance, would see coming. The next morning, the chamber doors opened early. Rubio had requested a special session, untelevised, no media, no grandstanding, but he invited one guest, Sergeant Ellis Ford's mother. Sergeant Ford died by suicide 3 weeks ago after his VA claim was rejected for the 5th time. He had written a letter before his death, a gut-wrenching, handwritten plea for help. Rubio didn't read the letter aloud. He placed it on the empty chair next to Mrs. Ford. Then he stood. "I know the cameras aren't here, that's the point." He looked toward Vance. "Senator Vance is right about waste. But not every dollar is waste. Some dollars are lifelines." He held up the bill. "This isn't perfect, but neither is grief. And we don't get to wait until the budget is beautiful before we save lives." JD Vance looked cornered, uncertain, quiet. Rubio sat down. For a long time, no one spoke. Mrs. Ford clutched her son's letter and wept. Later, someone from the gallery, unknown, uninvited, left a single rose on the chair Ellis would never fill. The cameras missed the moment. But the country didn't. It was all over TikTok within the hour, and America cried together. That night, Rubio returned to his office and locked the door. No press briefings, no staff, just him. He pulled out his phone and hit play on Liam Caldwell's testimony. Then the voicemail from Ibrahim Traoré. Then silence. He stared at his reflection in the dark window, not as a senator, not as a strategist, but as Marco, a father, a son, a man who once watched his own dad die waiting for health care. His shoulders slumped. For the first time in months, he let it out. He cried, quietly, ferociously, like he'd been holding back a hurricane. He grabbed a legal pad and began scribbling notes, names, numbers, faces, real people who had written to his office, ignored, filed, forgotten. Then he wrote one line at the top of the page. No one is invisible again. By morning, he had drafted a new proposal, stripped of political lingo, human-focused. A bill that restructured how aid reached veterans, rural hospitals, and military widows. He titled it, The Dignity Act, and he knew it would never pass without help. But help would come from the most unexpected place. JD Vance never knocked, but this time he did. Rubio's door creaked open. "You got a minute?" Vance asked, voice low. Rubio eyed him cautiously. "Yeah." Vance stepped in, glanced around, papers everywhere, coffee untouched, eyes tired. "I saw the chair," he murmured. "Ford's mom. That wrecked me." Rubio didn't speak. He waited. Vance sighed and leaned against the wall. I still think you're wrong about the money, but I read your Dignity Act. Pause. It's good. Longer pause. It's damn good. Rubio looked up, stunned. I came to fight, Vance admitted, but I didn't come to ignore pain. He slid a folder across the desk. You're missing a piece. Rural clinic licensing rules. I fixed them back home. Put that in. It'll help. Rubio blinked. You're helping me. No, I'm helping them, Vance said, turning to leave. And maybe reminding myself what the hell I came here to do. For the first time in weeks, the walls lowered. And in that rarest of Capitol Hill moments, two political enemies started building something. Together. 3 days later, the revised Dignity Act was introduced on the Senate floor, co-sponsored by Marco Rubio and JD Vance. The internet lost it. Commentators screamed, sellout, and flip-flop. Others called it a miracle. Some just didn't know what to think. But Dana Cole, the wheelchair-bound veteran from Missouri, knew exactly what it meant. She wheeled into her daughter's room and said, "Turn off the cartoons, baby. We're watching this." Her daughter, Lily, only 6, was already drawing something. A little soldier with angel wings holding a folded flag. "Is that Daddy?" Dana asked gently. "No," Lily replied. "That's the man from the TV, the one who can't walk. He's flying now." Dana's breath caught in her throat. She hugged Lily close, eyes wet. Across America, scenes like this unfolded in kitchens, clinics, church basements. Veterans hugged their kids tighter. Widows held on to hope. And for once, Congress didn't feel so far away. The crayon drawing was shared online. It went viral. By nightfall, Dignity Act was trending in 14 countries. And in Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré reposted the image with 4 words, "When leaders remember love." Liam Caldwell hadn't spoken to his mom in 3 days, not because he didn't love her, but because he didn't know how to say he was running out of strength. The pain was unbearable, not just in his spine, but in his soul. Even after testifying, even after going viral, his benefits were still under review. No wheelchair upgrade, no food assistance. He posted a video on TikTok, no filters, no edits, just his pale, tired face. "I'm not a hero. I'm not looking for a handout. I just want to live, eat, heal, that's all." It hit like a tidal wave. Within 10 hours, over 2 million views. Stand for Liam trended globally. Rubio saw it while reviewing edits to the Dignity Act. He stopped cold. "Get me Liam," he told his aide. But before they could reach him, Liam collapsed in his tiny apartment, malnourished, alone. By morning, the news broke. Veteran who testified to Senate hospitalized after collapse. America snapped. It wasn't a political issue anymore. It was a life-or-death emergency. Rubio held the front page in his hands and whispered, "He warned us." And Vance, watching from his own home, silently swore, "He will not become another ghost." The chamber was packed. Cameras rolled, eyes wide, phones off. No one moved. The Dignity Act was on the floor. Rubio stood first. "We have a chance, just one, to look those families in the eye and say, 'You matter.'" He glanced at Vance, who nodded. Then, unexpectedly, a Democrat rose, Senator Rachel Feinberg of Minnesota, a progressive firebrand. "I didn't think I'd ever back a Rubio-Vance bill," she said. "But this isn't a party bill. This is a people bill. My brother died waiting on a bed in a VA hallway." Gasps echoed. Feinberg had never spoken of him publicly. Then came another surprise. A Republican moderate, then a far-left senator from Vermont. One by one they rose. Not all with speeches. Some just stood, visibly shaking, with tearful eyes. As the final votes were counted, you could hear a pin drop. 57-43. It passed. The chamber didn't erupt. It didn't cheer. It cried. Rubio sat down, gripping the folded gold star letter in his hand. Vance whispered to no one in particular, "God forgive us for how long it took." And in hospitals and living rooms across the nation, families wept for the ones who didn't live to see this day. It was quiet in room 313 at Walter Reed. Liam lay motionless, tubes, machines, beeping. His mother sat beside him, holding his limp hand, whispering every prayer she could remember. Then, as the sun broke through the blinds, his fingers twitched, then again, then his eyes opened, slowly, weakly. "Mom?" She gasped, covering her mouth with trembling fingers. "Baby, you're here. You're okay." A nurse ran out to get the doctor. Liam tried to speak, but his throat was dry. His mom leaned close. "The bill passed," she whispered. "Rubio, Vance, they fought for you, for all of you." He blinked. A tear rolled down his cheek. "Did I make it matter?" She kissed his forehead. "You changed the world." In the hallway, reporters had gathered. Rubio and Vance arrived quietly. No suits, no ties, just two men carrying a frame, Lily's purple crayon drawing of Liam with angel wings. They hung it on the hospital wall. Liam saw it through the glass, smiled faintly and whispered, "I can fly now." Across the globe, Ibrahim Traoré posted again. Just 4 words. "America, you remembered." And this time, no one could argue, because the tears were everywhere. The White House press room hadn't seen this kind of hush in years. Rubio stood at the podium, no teleprompter, no scripted words. His tie was missing, his face tired, raw, but his voice clear. "I'm not here as a senator tonight. I'm here as a son of a man who died without care, as a friend to a boy named Liam, as someone who watched too many good people die without being seen." Cameras rolled, networks cut into programming, even rival anchors dropped their tones. He reached into his pocket, held up a copy of Liam's photo, him in uniform before the injury. "This boy changed the course of our country, not because he shouted, but because he showed us what we forgot." Rubio paused, visibly shaken. "We forgot how to feel." He looked into the lens. "We forgot what it meant to love people we'll never meet." A pin could have dropped in Times Square and been heard. Then he said, "If politics cost us our hearts, then we've already lost the war." Millions watched with tears streaming. In that moment, there were no Democrats, no Republicans, just Americans, listening. Finally. Weeks later, long after the news cycle cooled, one envelope arrived at Rubio's office. No return address. Inside, a worn, folded letter, written in careful French. Rubio asked his aide to translate. She choked up halfway through. It was from a Burkina Bay medic stationed in a desert camp. He'd seen the Senate hearings on a satellite stream. "I treated a wounded American contractor once," it read. "He told me he felt forgotten, that his country would never remember him." The medic wrote, "But now I believe America has remembered." He attached a picture. A small, dusty classroom of Burkina Bay children holding up drawings, all of Liam Caldwell, with angel wings and the American flag. Rubio stared at it, tears welling again. Then he turned the envelope over and saw 5 words scribbled faintly. "Tell Liam he still flies." That evening, Rubio visited Walter Reed. Liam was still recovering, his speech slow but stronger. Rubio knelt, held out the letter. Liam read it. His lips trembled. "I didn't think the world was watching," he whispered. "It was," Rubio said. "And now, it remembers." In a sun-drenched cemetery in Arlington, Rubio stood beside a small white casket. Not for Liam, he was alive, but for Ellis Ford, the veteran whose empty chair started it all. His mother had asked Rubio to deliver the eulogy. With millions watching via live stream, Rubio spoke slowly, emotionally. Ellis died waiting, but his silence became our scream. His suffering became our movement. He looked up at the crowd, filled with Gold Star families, veterans, nurses, janitors, truck drivers, and one little girl holding a crayon drawing. We folded his flag, but we will never again fold our conscience. He stepped down, placed the flag in the mother's hands, and whispered, "We won't forget again. I promise you." As taps played, tears ran like rivers. Then, a voice emerged behind the camera. Lily, quiet, innocent. "He's with the angels now." Rubio turned, heart breaking all over again. That clip, that one sentence, would break the internet in 12 hours, 30 million views, 2.6 million comments, millions crying. And in the comment section, I wasn't ready to cry this much. This made me call my dad and tell him I love him. I'm not even American, but I cried like I was. If this story moved you, if it made you cry, if it made you feel seen, heard, remembered, then don't let this moment fade. Hit that like button, not for me, but for Liam, for Ellis, for every voice forgotten. Drop a comment and share your own story, your pain, your hope. Someone out there needs it. And please, subscribe, because we're building more than a channel here. We're building a community that remembers. Let's make sure no one ever feels invisible again. Thank you for being human. See you in the next story.